If you're considering a second home in the North Carolina high country, there is a question that almost everybody thinks about, but really very few actually ask out loud. That question is about healthcare. And it's not in a fearful way, it's in a responsible way. So today in this video, I'm going to walk you through what healthcare looks like here in the high country, but I'm also going to balance that with what wellness looks like in the high country, because it is a balance between the two. And that's because for most of our second home buyers, it's not just about the cool, crisp air or maybe the views. It's about how you feel while you're here. Most of the people we work with, they're in their 50s, maybe their early 60s. They're healthy, they're active, they're intentional. They're not moving to the mountains because of healthcare, but they're not ignoring it either. So I just want to talk through it calmly, clearly, and responsibly so that you understand what your options are when you're in the high country. So let's begin by talking about your hospital options. And when I talk about hospitals, I'm talking about acute care centers. It's places where you can go for emergent care, acute care. They're going to have everything that you need from imaging to lab and diagnostics. They're probably going to have specialty care. You're certainly going to have that option at Watauga Medical Center. It's actually part of the UNC Health System. So it's part of a broader group organization, or what we call an integrated delivery network. I actually sold into hospitals and reference labs for over 20 years. In fact, my team supported the 60 largest health systems in the US, corporate accounts, government accounts. So I'm pretty familiar with the healthcare space, which is kind of fun. And then you have in the acute care space, anything from that large teaching university, 1,000+ bed hospitals in your main cities, all the way down to a critical access hospital, which we also have in Avery County. So on the other side, you've got Watauga Medical Center in Boone, which is going to be the main facility for that type of event. But in Avery County, you also have Cannon Hospital, which is still an acute care center. Now, it's treated a little bit differently. It's also part of UNC Health, but they have access to basically run, even though they're smaller, they have access to a lot of programs that basically subsidize or have discounted pricing to offer very similar services at a smaller type hospital. So on either side of the high country, you do have two acute care centers. Again, Watauga Medical Center in Boone, and then Cannon over in Avery County, which is actually in Newland. And the truth is, these hospitals are basically set to handle almost anything that comes at them, probably with the exception of something that is truly emergent or traumatic in nature. They're probably going to help triage and stabilize a patient and then send them on to another, a larger hospital, probably in Charlotte, potentially Asheville, could be Johnson City. That would either be through ambulatory care or even a life flight, depending on the situation. The next tier, I would say, are your urgent care centers, and you'd be happy to hear there's plenty of them. So whether it be Boone, Banner Oak, Blowing Rock, kind of the main hubs throughout the high country, you're going to have access to urgent care centers, pharmacies, and then even specialty care, primary care. They're going to have offices throughout the high country. And what's good about this is you have options. So if you're looking for lab, imaging, physical therapy, occupational therapy, just like we have in and around the towns, anytime you have a hospital, you're typically going to find some of the physician practices set up just outside. So you're going to have access to this. Now, what I find, most of our customers tend to keep the relationships that they already have in place. So if it's an elective surgery, as an example, they'll choose to do that at home. They won't do it in the high country. You could, there's certainly referrals and other ways to do so. But I think for a comfort and just continuity of care, the preference is to just do it when they're back at home. And that's what they choose to do. And honestly, it works out pretty well when it's set up in that fashion. The high country, while we have more and more full-time residents and it's growing every single year, it's set up really well to support you as a part-time or a seasonal resident. And I touched on this briefly when I was kind of talking about the acute care and health setting in general, but for emergent and emergency type events, you kind of have to be aware because you're about 2 hours by car back down to Charlotte. You're, depending on where you are, an hour and a half, 2 hours over to Johnson City. You've got Atrium Health down in the Charlotte area, Carolina Medical Centers, I think about it. Obviously the UNC Health, Atrium, I think goes into, I'm trying to remember what's in Asheville, if that's HCA. Anyways, there are options, but you just want to know, what does the access look like? How long does it take to get to one of those facilities if in fact you do need more emergent care? Again, Watauga Medical Center and Cannon are going to be able to handle 80+% of any type of event that you're going to have. But understanding where those relationships lie, if you're already part of a health system, potential to dovetail into that at another facility could be something that you want to consider and just know about in advance. And this isn't unique to the mountains. I talked about my sales experience. I started out covering parts of central Missouri and central and southern Illinois as an example. those are largely critical access hospitals, and you can be hours between some of these areas. So it's not that this is unique. It's just something you want to be aware of, especially if you live closer to a major metropolitan area today and have access to much larger health systems, as an example. So here's the honest truth. For your routine care, your everyday, and even your urgent care needs, you're well covered in the high country. For your specialty care, you're connected, you're supported, and it's all within reach. For most people buying a second home, that works really well for them. But now let's shift and let's talk about wellness. That's the part of being in the mountains where it's just how you feel and what it brings out in you. It's almost like on the healthcare side, like that's what happens when something goes wrong. The wellness side is what's happening to you every day that you're here. And one of the things our customers report back to us all the time is like, it's almost like movement without intention. You're just moving more when you're in the high country. Walking is a little bit easier. You have accessibility to all these different hiking trails, even just running errands, like you're in the mountains, the air is cooler, crisper, you're at elevation. And what's often reported back to us after people have closed and been up there a few months, they'll tell us stuff like, it's like we're moving a little more intentionally, or that maybe without even meaning to. It's a kind of a weird byproduct of it, but they'll talk about how they walk more than they did before, or even how just running errands is at elevation. The air is cool or crisp. They've got access to hiking trails. But the other thing that we find is many of our customers are looking for a social element. They're buying into communities that have a ton of amenities. So they might be golfing, they might be playing pickleball, they could be playing tennis or bocce, or taking advantage of some of the hiking or walking trails throughout the community. Some of them even have pools. So if you're into swimming laps, there's neighborhoods and communities that support that as well. But they just find that they're moving more. And sometimes it's like unintentional. They'll tell me about like the Eagle's Nest is a great example. They have concerts, once or twice a month, all summer long at their great grape in the Overlook area. And they're just, they're carrying chairs and a cooler or whatever it might be. So even unintentional, because they're involved and they're active, they're just moving more. And another area of wellness that people talk about is sleep and stress levels. And I can relate to this. I sleep better in the high country. So yes, it is cooler. It's not as humid, especially in the summertime when we, prefer to be up there. It's quieter. There's less ambient noise. So this isn't just marketing. Like, this is real. Again, I can relate to it when I'm up there. The other thing that we're seeing in the high country is really built around like mindfulness, meditation. It could be yoga. Some of the communities that already have fitness centers are beginning to offer a lot more, especially in the summertime, like outdoor yoga, which is amazing considering some of the views. But you can also find like mind and body work options. There's now studios in Boone and Blowing Rock. I don't know if there's one in Banner Elk yet, but I would not be surprised. The growth in Banner Elk is it's growing quickly between Eagle's Nest and other communities immediately around it. So that is definitely something that's growing in the high country. If that's of interest to you, you won't have a hard time finding access to that. I've read recently about how nature is almost like medicine. And I'm fortunate we get to split time between Southwest Florida and the high country. People talk about if you can go and listen to ocean waves crash, how that is just so meditative and like how healthy that is for you. And then I've also read how you go walk through the woods and how that is a form of nature. So we hear this a lot when people are just taking their forest hikes or walking some of these trails, these scenic overlooks. It could just be driving the Blue Ridge Parkway or frankly, almost any road. You have an opportunity for some of these views, which are just astounding. It's almost like that's people's ability to do like a daily reset. If you get to combine kind of the wellness aspects with the healthcare options, there is balance in the high country. So how do second home buyers basically balance all this? I've kind of touched on it in a few different places in the video. But again, most of our customers keep their relationships with their primary care physicians back at home, wherever that might be. Anywhere in the Carolinas, Florida tends to be the bulk of the folks that we work with. Of course, there's Virginia and Tennessee and other parts. But anyways, those relationships tend to remain intact. But anything that's urgent or even routine for that matter, the high country is more than able to handle and is equipped to address anything that you're likely going to have happen when you're up there. I should add, because this is something that became really popular during COVID, but telehealth has become a really good way to fill the gap between your primary providers, if they're somewhere else, and then the options available to you in the high country. The other thing that we've seen, and a handful of our customers actually use this, they use concierge type services where they have a primary physician at home, and there that person kind of coalesces all of their healthcare information between specialists and the primary care, the facilities themselves. They look over the chart and the paperwork. They're making sure the medications are right. That can be extended up into the high country as well, where that concierge service continues to do that on your behalf with other providers. So having said all that, I do want to just say access matters, location matters. If you want to be closer to Watauga Medical Center, as an example, we will consider that and work that into part of the search criteria and the areas that we show you. If you're not as concerned with that and you're looking for more isolation or just more privacy as a whole, we might look in other parts of the high country. So again, you have a ton of options. We're going to have a conversation about what's important to you. And then all of this is layered in so that we can ultimately narrow down to what exactly it is that you're looking for. So if you're considering a second home in the high country and healthcare has been kind of quietly sitting in the back of your mind, the good news is you can have it all. You can have the coverage that you're looking for in the high country. If you're considering buying a second home in the high country, let's have a conversation. Even if you're a year out, these are answers that you're going to want, or these are questions you're going to want answers to long before you're ready to start signing on a purchase and sale contract. So I'm available anytime. Please leave me a comment or share this video if it's helpful for anyone that you might know that is also looking. I read every comment. You can, of course, comment below. My information is on the screen. I'm Jeremy with the Gillette Group in the high country, and I look forward to talking with you real soon.